It was just sitting on my porch when I came home from work. A disc. On the disc were the words, 3 Dead Edds. I don't know where it came from or who put it on my porch, but I could find out. I went inside my house to check my Ring camera. Once I went through the footage, I saw what seemed to be a hooded man walking up to my porch. He simply took the disc out of his jacket pocket, gazed at my door for a good 45 seconds without me seeing his face. He then laid the disc down and walked away. A little freaked out, but curious as well. I wanted to find out who this person was, but in the meantime, I wanted to see what was on this disc. I went to my laptop and inserted it into the disk drive. Once closed, it loaded into my video player. 5 minutes and 18 seconds long. The video starts with the Ed, Edd, and Eddy theme song. The song plays perfectly fine, and then an episode title card appears on the screen. 3 Dead Edds. The background of the title card was extremely weird and kind of grotesque in my opinion. It had all 3 Ed characters hanging on a rope with X's in their eyes. The part about it is it had the music that plays in most of the title cards from the show. But this title card looked like it was homemade. Definitely not the kind of title cards you see in the show itself. However, once it started, I realized very quickly that this was not an episode of Ed, Edd, and Eddy, the cartoon. What I'm about to tell you next was truly one of the most fucked up things I've ever seen in my life. It started out in a dark room, which had just a little lamp light in it. And obviously this was being recorded on the camera as it stayed in one place. 3 young men tied in chairs, gagged and bound. As I watch, I can see them looking terrified. Thinking at first that maybe this was a joke that a neighbor or even a friend of mine could be trying to play on me. But I realized eventually that was not the case. Next thing you know, a redheaded girl walks into the room and shouts, "Ed, Mom says you and your friends have to play with me." She goes over to the young man in the middle. She pulls out the gag from his mouth. He screams, "Please, let us go. You're fucking crazy. What do you want?" The girl then puts the gag back into his mouth as he tries to finish talking. She says to him, "I'm telling Mom what you said." She storms out of the room, which happens to be a basement. As far as I could tell, I see stairs as she goes up them. It then cuts to what seems to be a few hours or so later. The girl comes back down with what seems to be a big plate with 3 small bowls on it. "Ed," she screams, "Mom says it's time for dinner." As she brings the bowls down on the plate, you could see that it looks like a brown soup of some sort. She then says, "It's gravy, Ed. You love gravy, so you and your friends better eat it or else I'll tell Mom." She ungags the 3 young men and starts to spoon feed them one at a time. Once she gets to the last guy, he says to her, "You fucking crazy bitch. What is wrong with you? Let us go. I have a family to get back to." "We all do," says the other guy on the other end. "You're not going anywhere," she says. All the young men start yelling at her, which makes her very angry and frustrated. She then pulls out a razor blade, goes up to the first young man and starts to carve his face, as he and the others start to scream as she does this horrific act. The video goes black for a few seconds and comes back into frame of all 3 young men seemingly dead in their chairs. The final minute is the girl sitting there with a doll in her hand, and she can be heard telling someone who isn't in frame, or perhaps someone she even imagined, Well, Jimmy, at least I have you to play with me. She goes quiet for a second and then responds, What's that, Jimmy? Yes, a tea party with you and my dollies sounds like a great time. The girl then gets up and walks back upstairs, leaving the frame. Now, just the young men bleeding with their lifeless faces in the camera can be seen. Nothing more and nothing less. The video ends. After watching this, I thought about calling the police, but am skeptical as I want to know who left me this fucked up abomination on my porch, and also who the girl was in the video. Until I find out, I think I'll just keep it to myself, but besides this, I figured I would post it here to you people, anonymously.